We had a whole itinerary that we were going through. We were going through the order of the Seder, but in my personal learning, I'm up to page Shin Lamed Zayin Maimer Mem Vav in the Yareach L'Moadim, and he has an amazing piece which I connected to tremendously on Shvo Chamascha. A tremendous piece. The basic question that you have to hear is, why do we pour the cup for Eliyahu, and why do we open up the door for Eliyahu Hanavi at the end of the Seder? Do it in the beginning. Okay. What's the point of opening the door in general? And what's the point of pouring a cup for him? Why don't we do that in the beginning? It's an excellent question. I never thought about it. And it's an excellent and deep answer. This isn't a simple answer. You throw this question out at your Seder, people are going to have no clue what the answer is. You know that a lot of times when you throw out a question, people attempt to answer the question. How are you going to attempt to answer this? There's no answer. You got to be holding over here. This is a deep idea and a deep concept over here. So let's go through some background information. Let's start off with the Ramah and Simon Tufpe. The Ramah says, Yesh arvim sheyesh loimar shvol chamascha v'chulu koydem lolanu. Some say you say shvol chamascha before lolanu. Fine. V'liv toyach hapesach kadei lizkor shulal shemurim. All right, we open the door because we're commemorating that it's a lel shemurim, which means a night that we're going to be guarded. It's a lot to talk about that. One idea is that, based on what we said before, why is the Seder at night? Could be that the Seder has the status and the night of the Seder as day, spiritually and physically, just similar to in Egypt. That's an insight in of itself. According to that, Leil Shemurim, it's not a chiddush that it's going to be guarded as the status of a day. But anyways, Leil Shemurim. Ubizachus amuna zo yavu Mashiach v'yishbo chamasol hamachishim. Then the Ramah concludes by saying, and in the merit of this belief that we have, right? Belief that it's a time that we're going to be guarded and that we're going to remain safe. In the merit of this, Mashiach will come and pour his wrath on those who aren't acting properly. Okay, we'll leave it at that. Now, that's the Ramah. Leil Shemurim. Now, B'pshuto, simple explanation over here is the idea of Leil Shemurim is in a spiritual sense that we're saved from Mazikin. I remember last Pesach. I think it was the first days. I don't remember. Man, maybe the first days. We stayed by my mother.
Okay.
And there's this minion over there. And we davened over there. And it came out that they forgot to lock their doors at night.
Pesach,
Pesach, yeah. We came back in the morning and said, no, Leil Shemurim. Now, obviously, purposely, you don't want to leave your doors unlocked if you're in a dangerous area and everything, and everyone has different levels of amuna. But
technically, it's the first night, no?
Yeah. That's when they forgot to lock it.
Oh, okay.
Some people actually they want to show, wow, I have so much amuna. They leave their doors unlocked. Look, you got to know your neighbor, know where you live, and all that. Akoponim, what do we have over here? Nevertheless, it's Leil Shemurim. You can be saved from mazikin, which are spiritual types of damagers. All right. Now, there's a fascinating and fundamental Gemara in Psachim on Kuf Tesam Beis. Gemara talks about how do we have 4 cups of yayin. Now, I'll bring up a topic which is in and of itself difficult to understand. You can see the Gemara over there for more details. It's called zugos, doing things in pairs. The point is that there could be a danger associated specifically with an even number of the cups. Right. Now, so the Gemara answers, Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Kra. The pasuk in Shmo says in Yud Beis Mem Beis Leil Shemurim. It's a night where you will be guarded. Leil Hamashumar Uba Min Mazikin. It's a night where you will be guarded and protected from these spiritual damagers. So we see from over here that there's a special protection on this night that happened in Egypt and similarly manifests itself on an annually on the night of every single Seder, Pesach. Yeah? Now, this is why the Ramah paskins, not in Siman Tov Pei, but in Siman Tov Pei Aleph, and this is what he writes, No hogin shaloy likrois al mitoso rak parsha shma. There's a custom to only recite the first parsha of Shema right before you go to sleep on your bed. Many people have the custom to recite all three. Over here, stick with one. Why? Not only that, not only you don't need to go recite all three parshas of Shema, but everything else that you customarily that you personally recite on a nightly basis, don't worry about it tonight. You know why? Leil Shemurim. So we see a practical manifestation from a halachic perspective, which occurs annually from this Leil Shemurim business. Because it's a Leil Shemurim in a Mazikin, says Rama. The Magen Avram over there in Sivkot and Beis quotes the Maharil, who says, this is what we were saying before, Lo Yinol Hadelis B'Bariya Chazak. Let's say some doors, I remember my grandparents' house. They lived 2 blocks from here.
I know, we
Yeah, you've been to the house
We
once.
went
So
there.
during COVID or whatever, something happened. They didn't want us to come to the shul. So they were there for around 50 years.
Wow.
Their back door, maybe 60, their back door had 4 locks to it. That's why if you go to the White Shul and you look at the office, you ever wonder why there are bars on the office like you're in a jail? Farako used to be 50 years ago, not the same Farako it is now. But anyways, that's a history lesson. The point is, if you've got multiple locks, don't worry about all the multiple locks. Take it down a notch. Don't lock the 5 locks. Keep it to 1 or 2. About those. If you got 2 locks, a lot of doors have 2 locks. Keep it to 1 lock because it's Leil Shemur. Every single year there's a special protection. Yeah. Now, let's take it to the next step. All right. Let's ask the question and elaborate on the question that we already asked. In the Haggadah Shal Pesach of the Bear Yosef, on page Kuf Lamed Zayin, he says, wait a second. According to this, we should leave the door open the entire Seder, because the entire night we're going to be saved from these spiritual damagers, these mazikin. Why do we wait till the end of the Seder? By the way, this has to do with, what do we say? Halach ma'anya kol dichvin yesei v'yechol. Anyone who's poor, let him come and eat.
Leave the door open.
We should leave the door open, let the poor people come. That's one of the questions that they ask on halach ma'anya. What are we inviting poor people when we're already home?
Right,
The
that's
poor
the
people
question.
are outside on the streets. They're not in our house. How's the invitation even help? I mean, we already discussed also why are we inviting them specifically on Pesach more than other times. That was on why is Pesach corresponding established because of Avram. It was on one of them, the 3-part series there. We discussed it. And it was actually on the part that we talked about the kindness, the chesed, that he was kindness and everything. It was on that one. We went into that over there. The point is that there's a lot of cryptic ideas over here, and there's a lot of deeper questions. And most people, the reality is that the only time they're studying the Seder is on the night of the Seder. That's not a time to study. It takes hours and hours to go through and see all the depth that is behind all of it. Like someone once said, I started asking him questions. He said, I don't know, I only do it twice a year. No, the idea is the Shloshim Yom Kodem Achag, to prepare for Pesach 30 days before Yontif. That's from a physical perspective to get rid of the chametz, but also spiritual. When we say spiritual, you got to do halacha. You got to go into get a deeper understandings of the Yontif of Pesach, hashkafically, and in terms of the Drush Shabo, and to get a better understanding, and also from the Seder to get a better understanding. But anyways, so the question is, why don't we leave the door open the entire time? The Beis Halevi, the truth is, already deals with this as well in his Sefer in Parshas Bo on the pasuk of Leil Shemurim. He quotes the Gemara and everything that we just said in the Shulchan Aruch over here, and he says, wait a second, why shouldn't we do it in the beginning of the Seder? So you know what he says? Beis Halevi says, "Ha'inyan dehu ba b'ramiza laharos l'tinok davar chachma." We want to teach the kids some wisdom over here. We want to teach them something smart, right? Because he quotes that Gemara and says, "What do you mean? How could you have an even amount of cups of wine?" So one of the answers is it's Leil Shemurim. So he says that's why v'zehu kishemoizgin kais revi. When you're pouring the 4th cup, say to yourself, wait a minute, you got pears over here. Oh, no. The answer of how we could have 4 cups and we're not worried about the zugos, you know why? Boom. The door is open. We're opening the door. That's the answer of why we could do 4 cups. Why could we pour 4 cups? The answer is because we're opening the door. Dahainu, aka, it's Leil Shemurim. It's a time that we're guarded.
That's why we do it by over there for the bench.
Well,
that's when we pour the 4th coat.
Okay, that's
the answer.
that's a cute idea that we do it over there to show the fourth coast, but that could be a potential answer over here, perhaps.
Until we can get the answer.
No, that could be an idea. That could definitely be an idea. Similarly, in the Hagois and the Chsam Sofer, in the Shulchan Aruch, when it's commenting on the Ramah, he says, "Ya'an ki moizgin kois revi v'loy chashin leguzos al ki merame shulal shemurim." We're alluding to it to Lal Shemurim, right? Now, the reason why this answer, if you want to say it's an answer, could get easily refuted. Wait a second. Open the door after the second coast. Maybe you could say, right? So this answer is not something that will satisfy our desire for having a proper understanding of why we're opening the door and pouring the kos shel Eliyahu at the end of the Seder, not in the beginning. He says, what?
I'm gonna say, we're having a third, so that we don't have to worry about the zugos, but a third's coming. But by the fourth is the final, so you worry about I guess I'm saying
okay, all right. Comes along the Orachos Chaim and says like this. This is in Hilchos Lela Pesach Sivkot and Lamed Zayin, and part of it is quoted by the Chok Yaakov in Sivkot and Vav B'Shem the Sefer Amani. Archem Moshe goes into it. You know what he says? He goes into that we don't lock the door like we just said. Benisan nigalu, benisan osid lihigael. We were redeemed in Nisan once. We will be redeemed the second time when Mashiach comes as well. Rosh Hashanah, Yud Aleph, fine. V'im yovo Eliyahu yimsa Pesach pasuach v'yetzi l'kroso mahem. What's going to happen over here? Let's say Eliyahu Hanavi is going to come in. Eliyahu Hanavi is going to come in. So what's he going to do? He's going to find. He's going to find that what? If Eliyahu Hanavi is going to come, he's going to find that the door is open, and he's going to go out to greet him. He's going to go out to greet him. That's the idea. In other words, there's two ways of getting into a house. One way is the door is open and you walk right in. That's the quickest way. The slower way is the door is closed and you got to open the thing. So when the door is open, it's a easier way to get in. It's like, those automatic sliding doors. What do they call those? Not Jack and Jill. What's it? There's a word for them when they slide and they go into the wall. There's a fancy word for them. All right, nope. I'll go pun and I'll just stick with Torah. The point is that what? The point is that if Eliyahu Hanavi is gonna come, so what's gonna happen? He's gonna find the door open, right? So it's gonna be easier for him to get in over here, right? So that's the idea of leaving the door open, right? Now this is Amunah. We are having a belief. The opening of the door symbolizes that our ancestors were only redeemed from Egypt because they had Amunah, they had belief. Okay? And we will only get redeemed in the future because of Amunah as well. That's what this teaches us symbolically on a deeper level. And by the way, this is a major focus of the Seder in general. Believing that Hashem created the world, has our best intention in mind, has a masterful plan which we are unable to fully comprehend in this world, and is in charge and involved with every single little item in this world, every blade of glass, every single ant, etc. Now, regarding this, we have to realize something very important. We have a custom to pour a kos. It's called kos Eliyahu, as we already discussed, the cup of Eliyahu. The Mishnah Brura, Sivkot and Yud, explains, no hagin be'elu medinos limzoig kos echad yoser me'amasubin. Custom is we pour an additional cup. V'korina zo kos shel Eliyahu, as we Eliyahu Hanavi. We call it the cup of Eliyahu Hanavi. This alludes to the concept that we believe shekeshem shegalanu Hashem yizbarach me'Mitzrayim hu yigalenu od v'yishlachanu es Eliyahu le'bisarenu. This alludes to the fact that just like Hashem redeemed us from Egypt, so too He will redeem us in the future. He will redeem us and send Eliyahu Hanavi to start the process out. That's what the Mishnah verse says. That's why we poured this kos. Hashem redeemed us, and He will redeem us. In other words, at this time, what we do over here is we recall the Amunah, the belief that we had in Mitzrayim, and we remind ourselves of the belief that we need to have for the Geula HaSida, the future redemption, that Eliyahu Navi will come and tell us about. Now, we have to finalize the question over here. This is really the end of the question. Everything that we just said is introduction, so to say. This is finalizing the question and crystallizing. Why do we wait until the end of the Seder and not in the beginning? Seemingly would be completely more accurate, logical to contemplate this throughout the entire Seder. The theme of the Seder is believing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is involved with everything. He redeemed us and will redeem us. B'nisin nigalu nisan osid lihigadel. So then, why don't we do it in the beginning? Just before we actually answer this question, just going to say one random point. And by the way, if you ever want to stump someone on a question, you could ask them this. The Gemara in many places in Shas is asked a question. Question is asked, and the Gemara answers Tekel. What does Tekel stand for? Yeah, Tishvi Yutaretz Kushi Abbas. Why doesn't it say Eku? Eliyahu will answer the question's answer. Why does it say Tishbu? Eliyahu at Tishbi? What do we care so much about Tishbi? Don't know. When we get to Sefer Malachim, we'll have to learn about it properly, and then we'll definitely know many answers. All right, we got to get through Yeshua first. But let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
Why Eliyahu Navi? Why not Moshe? That's the answer you could stump people with. The first question you could stump them with also probably the Tishbi business. But why is Eliyahu Navi going to answer the questions in the future? Why not Moshe Rabbeinu? We ever discussed this?
Because he gave up hope on the Jews.
Nah, he gave up hope on the Jews. What do you mean he gave up hope?
Yeah, that's why Hashem fired him.
He fired him? What do you mean? Which case?
Yeah, he fired right after Harakan. He lashed into the Jews. I think Hashem said that's
who, Eliyahu Navi?
Yeah.
So then, who Eliyahu Navi gave up on the Jews?
Yeah, supposedly that's
so then, why are we saying Eliyahu Navi is going to answer the question? It doesn't help answer the question. Yeah, but why should he have the merit of answering all these difficult shilas? It's a sukkos. Someone once told me, to become a rav, you should never take a stellar more than 7 years. Never, except why? Because that's the term of an Eved Ivri. It's a shtickle. I have this body, it's a zechos at the end of the day. Yeah, Shemitah, okay, fine. Eved Ivri is a cute idea. But why is Eliyahu Navi going to answer the question? David, you have a teretz?
No.
No. So one answer that I saw, I forget where offhand, beautiful answer. Moshe Rabbeinu is going to come. He's going to say, this is what the Jews are like. This isn't Jews. This is what they're doing. This is the amount that they're learning. This is the amount of mitzvahs they're involved in. The hearts, the brain's thinking. Moshe's not going to understand. He hasn't been here for thousands of years. Eliyahu Hanavi, though, never passed away. He's still here. He understands the nisyonos. He understands the tests and the difficulties that we're going through. Therefore, it makes sense. Eliyahu Hanavi is going to be the one. In order to paskin a shaila, whether hashkafa or halacha, whatever the question is, to deal with it properly, you have to know your environment. You have to know the setting. You have to know the situation. Eliyahu Hanavi will rightfully be able to decide what the answer is going to be because he understands this current generation and all of the trials and tribulations and tests that we're going through. He understands it. Let's get back to the
question over here.
A question over here. Why at the end of the Seder and at the beginning? So we'll put a timestamp over here. Cut to the chase. You want to get the answer right here. Everything before is just introduction. Very important information, though, nonetheless. Maybe, therefore, we shouldn't put anything at the bottom so they don't skip all of it. But anyways, the idea is like this. Discusses in an earlier mimer. The reason, it's a whole discussion, different ideas, midrashim, farm talk about different things. But according to one approach, the only reason why the Jews merited being redeemed, our ancestors in Egypt, is because what? They had emunah in Hashem. They believed in Hashem and that eventually they were going to come out. They asked some of the hostages, how did you survive for hundreds and hundreds of days being starved, tortured in the tunnels in Gaza? Psychologically, physically, mentally. How did you survive down there? The things that they tell, the interview that they just did with one of the hostages, the one that became the most famous with the two little kids and his wife, and they told him, we murdered your wife, don't worry, you'll find another wife. How do you survive this? Or the other one that they're making the hostages watch events that are that eyes should never see, things that they should never see, do things that they should never do. All these cruel ways. How do you survive that? Emunah in Hashem. Hashem has the masterful plan. Hashem Ya'azor. Hashem will help. Hashem is running the show at the end of the day. That's what the Jews had in Mitzrayim. That's what our ancestors believed in when they were back in Egypt over there. Hashem Ya'azor. Hashem has a plan. Comes the Alter Mikelm, and he says, the order of the Geula of the redemption of Egypt began with Emunah, belief in Hashem, and subsequently led to the Etzem Geula, the actual redemption itself. Without the Hakdama, without the introduction of the belief in Hashem, the Jews would be unfit to be redeemed. They would never be redeemed. Lo hayu ki lo hayu re'uyim ligal bli zechus emunah. The Jews were not fit to be redeemed without the merit of belief in Hashem. The belief of Hashem is a necessary prerequisite and condition to get them the ticket out of Egypt. You see where we're going here? Where are we going?
The build-up of the Emunah is the Haggadah, the whole.
Excellent, very good. That's how you know we've been together for more than a few days. Very good, Shkayach. That's it. Shmuel Karp, you'll hear about him one day. You'll hear about him. Okay, now, say it like this. Rabbeinu Yerucham says that it wasn't only because of the belief in Hashem that they had. It was also a combination of the bitachon in Hashem. That's why they merited. And he says, I just want to add a little bit. And he says, all the merits and the anticipation, it began with emunah and bitachon. And when we see him, when we contemplate that what? That before the redemption, what was our ancestors, what were they commanded with? The Korban Pesach. When you analyze the sacrifice of the Pesach that they brought, and all of the mitzvahs, all the details of it surrounded around this theme of belief in Hashem. All of the Korban Pesach. I mean, he doesn't elaborate so much how exactly, but the idea over here is that they were afraid for their life. Our ancestors, they said, they're going to stone us. We're going to slaughter their gods in front of them. They're going to kill us. Oh, no. But Hashem said to do it. Oh, Hashem said to do it. We have to believe in what Hashem said. Yet we see a manifestation from a practical standpoint of this belief in Hashem that they had. According to this, we could easily answer those strong questions that we asked and that we've spent a lot of time on already. Why do we open up the door and pour the cup for Eliyahu at the end of the Seder? And one answer is based on these words of the Alter Mikelm. He says, "V'hine ge'ulas Mitzrayim simim lege'ula asida." The redemption which occurred thousands of years ago in Egypt is symbolic. It symbolizes that there will be a future redemption as well for us. We have to merit preparing ourselves like this order. In other words, the redemption from Egypt hints to and symbolizes the future redemption, and therefore, consequently, included in our avodah, in the way that we serve Hashem on the night of the Seder, is to contemplate the redemption from Egypt. And once we contemplate that, we have to prepare ourselves for the future redemption. Now, what? That Eliyahu Hanavi will come. So therefore, we can understand that just like the Geula of Mitzrayim happened in this order, the Emunah and the Bitachon first, and then afterwards the Geula, so too in the future, right? We should be zoicha for Mashiach to come, and Mashiach will come only when we have the belief. Now we have to go into this a little bit more. This is why we open the door and pour the kos for Eliyahu, pour the cup, because that comes from Emunah and Bitachon. That demonstrates that we believe in Hashem, and we believe that Eliyahu Hanavi is going to come with Mashiach speedily. That's why, right? And that's why we have to do what they did, our ancestors did in Egypt, aka this Emunah, this belief. We're in a long exile over here, and we anticipate every single day for Eliyahu's arrival. We have to prepare ourselves with the proper bitachon, with the proper belief. That's why we open the door. We're saying without a doubt, he's going to be here. He's coming right now. Open the door so he'll come in faster. According to this, we could explain why we do this at the end of the Seder, not the beginning. A main focus in avodah, way that we have to be involved with the Seder and talk about the Exodus on the night of the Seder, is chayiv odom aros atzmo liros atzmo kilu yotz mitzrayim. I always like saying every single year at the Seder, this is the hardest halacha, the hardest mitzvah of all the 60 plus mitzvahs on the night of the Seder. That we view ourselves as if we're leaving Egypt. I just saw this year the Dubna Magid. He said that one time the king went in a forest and there were bandits. For some reason, he didn't have enough protection. They were going to kill the king. And he ran away and he hid in a small hut. And the guy in the hut hid him under some pillows and stuff. And he heard knocking on the door. It was the bandits. He broke the door down, came in. They said, "You hiding anyone?" And he said, "No, I haven't seen anyone." He lied. He protected the king's life. And they started checking the entire hut. And they went around. And the king could hear one of the guys breathing. He was so close. And he comes so close. What is it? And he just missed him. And he saved his life. The guy in the hut didn't even know it was the king. After they left, he said, "Thank you so much. You saved my life. I am the king. I want to invite you to the palace and to have a celebration and a ceremony." And the guy came along and he said, "Of course." He came in dressed all fancy and everything. They supplied the clothing and everything. And he came in and the king said, "Do you want anything?" He said, "I have one request." How did you feel at that moment then when they could have killed you in seconds? How did you feel? The king said, "How dare you? What audacity to ask how I was feeling when I was lock him up immediately. We're going to kill him and hang him." They locked him up. A few days later, they brought him out to do a ceremony to hang him. And they put him up there and they're about to start hanging him. And the king says, "Stop." And he says, "You want to know how I felt? That's how I felt." Says the Dumna Magid. That's what we have to do on the night of the Seder. That's why we go through all these motions. We have to feel like we're coming out of Egypt. We have to feel like we were just about to get killed. That's what the Seder is about. We have to feel like we're coming out. We have to instill, ingrain, chisel into our hearts and our essence this emunah, this belief in Hashem that we have, the metzius of Hashem and His hashkacha, that Hashem is involved and in charge with everything. And once we contemplate that, and once we discuss in great detail and length about all the wondrous and miraculous acts that Hashem performed from us in an unnatural manner, that will cause us to be different people. Only after we fulfill the Seder and everything that it entails and all the mitzvahs, and we elevate ourselves with belief in Hashem, then we will have properly prepared ourselves for the future redemption. Then we will have the true and proper emunah, the true belief in Hashem. So first we talk about and we contemplate the nisim, the miracles that Hashem did. Then our belief in Hashem gets stronger after that, and we're involved with all the mitzvahs. And then once we reach that level, boom, then we could open the door. Because then we really have true belief in Hashem. And without a doubt, we realize that the redemption for us, the geula, could happen at any moment. To the extent that Eliyahu and Navi could come in right now, and the door is wide open. That's why we only open the door at the end. Because we need, the Seder is a process that builds us. And builds us mentally. Builds our beliefs and what we truly believe in. And once we go through the process and we properly analyze and discuss what we are dealing with, that will bring the geula. The Seder is not a time to start schmoozing. It's not a time to start catching up with extended family. The Seder is a time that we should utilize all of the preparation that we did on the Haggadah, all of the insights that we came across, all of the discussions that we glean knowledge from, and put it all together. Compare and contrast our ideas with others. Grow from it. And we recognize and realize how wonderful, the wondrous acts that Hashem performed for our ancestors. And how amazing that is. And after we contemplate that, and we go through the Seder properly, and we go through the mitzvahs properly, then we're going to realize, wait a second, Hashem caused the redemption and will cause the redemption. Oh, now after we had a whole crash course over here, and seriously we contemplated this, now we could finally open the door for Eliyahu and Navi. Now we could pour the coast for Eliyahu and Navi and realize, oh, Hashem will cause Eliyahu and Navi to come. Mashiach will come. This isn't some hypothetical idea. This is reality. That's why we do it at the end, because we need to instill and get these ideas for us. That's why the king almost hung the guy who saved his life. Because you had to get him to realize, what is it like when you're about to lose your life? You can't describe that to someone. You have to be in the situation yourself when someone has a gun to your head and is about to pull the trigger. That's what the Seder does for us. Mitzvah Hashem. Continue next time. Go from there.
I would say in this case.
Sure.
Martin.
Wait.
You want to add something?
No, stop the recording.
Give me some.
No, so it's.
You want it off the recording?
Yeah.
Oh.